Have you ever been in that spot where you knew all the facts, you did all the studying, but when the moment came, you just froze? Well, today, we're going to dig into that exact problem, that super frustrating gap between knowing something and being able to use it when it really, really counts.
Power is not in remembering, it's in thinking under pressure. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. This quote really gets to the heart of it all. The real strength isn't just having a bunch of information stored away in your brain. It's being able to pull it out and apply it when the pressure's on.
And this leads us to what you could call a paradox. We've all seen it. Maybe we've even been there ourselves. You've got the theory down, the formula's memorized, you know all the rules. You're supposed to be prepared. And yet, in that one critical moment, it's like your mind is a total blank slate.
So, what is going on there? Why does a mind that's absolutely full of knowledge suddenly just hit a wall? It's this incredibly frustrating experience, right? And what's interesting is, the source material here suggests the answer isn't to just study harder. No, it points to something else entirely.
Here's the kicker. We've probably been focusing on the wrong thing all along. We spend years, literally years, collecting knowledge, but almost no time training the very specific skill of using that knowledge, especially when we feel stressed out or scared or like everyone's watching us.
So let's give this skill a name. Let's call it a thinking muscle. It's a metaphor, sure, but it's a really powerful one. This is the part of our mind that takes all that raw data and actually turns it into a decisive action.
So what is this thinking muscle exactly? Well, it's your ability to connect different ideas on the fly, to adapt to a new problem you haven't seen before, and to actually choose a course of action, all while managing that internal pressure, that voice in your head.
You know, you can think of your brain as having two different jobs. On one side, you've got the archive. That's your library of facts and rules and formulas. And on the other side, you've got the engine. That's the active process that uses everything in the archive. You can have the biggest, most amazing library in the world, but without an engine, all those books are just going to sit there collecting dust.
And when that engine, that thinking muscle, is left untrained, there are real consequences. It's not just about a few awkward moments. Over time, it actually creates this predictable and pretty damaging pattern of self-doubt, a spiral, really.
And this spiral just builds and builds. After just a year, a person might start to shy away from any tricky questions or tough situations. Then, after 2 years, they start to just give up, thinking, what's the point, even when they know the answer is in there somewhere. And by year 3, well, the damage is kind of done. They've internalized it all and just decided, you know what, I'm just not that kind of person.
But here's the good news. This is not a life sentence. Just like any other muscle, this thinking ability can be trained. The whole focus just needs to shift from simply filling up the library to actually building a powerful engine.
And let's be absolutely clear what we're talking about here. This isn't about relearning history or going over math problems again. It's not tutoring. It's more like having a personal trainer for your brain, targeting a skill that most of our education just completely skips over. The training philosophy is actually built on 3 simple but pretty profound principles. First, act in any situation. This is about practicing making a call, any call, instead of just freezing. Second, constantly apply what you learn. Connect the dots between theory and the real world so your knowledge becomes useful. And finally, number 3, think with your information. Don't just recite it back. This whole approach is designed to systematically turn you from a passive container of facts into an active problem solver.
So, what happens when you actually start this kind of training? Well, that whole downward spiral of doubt we just talked about, it doesn't just stop. It actually starts to reverse. You start building this new positive momentum. And a change can be shockingly fast. In just a month, that fear of thinking problems, it starts to fade. In 2 months, thinking becomes this active, reliable skill you can count on. And by the 3-month mark, there's a complete shift. Challenges start to look like opportunities, and you feel totally empowered to decide how you're going to act.
So, in the end, it all comes down to this one key transformation. It's a fundamental move away from passive states and toward active ones. You go from simply remembering to acting on what you know, from just learning to actually applying what you learn. And most important of all, you go from simply knowing a bunch of facts to actively thinking with them.
Which really leaves us with a final and pretty important question to think about. Not just for ourselves, but for how we approach education as a whole. What's the goal here? Are we trying to build walking archives, just full of information that can't be used? Or are we trying to build dynamic, resilient minds that can actually act on what they know?